Hello, everyone. I'm Gisela Paterno, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we will explore Haydn's third movement of his sonata in E minor, Hoboken 1634. In this video, we will break down the rondo structure, themes, harmonies, and Haydn's compositional techniques. If you're interested in the first movement analysis, just click on the link above. Before we start, let me clarify that we will use the terminology coined by the theorist William Kipling from his book Analyzing Classical Form. Let's start. This piece was composed in the late 1770s and published in London in 1783. This sonata emerged during Haydn's Sturm und Drang, storm and stress period. This approach illustrates Haydn's innovative balance of emotional depth and classical decorum. Even as the sonata ventures into a rare minor key territory, it does so within the elegant structure framework typical of the classical style. Minor keys were unusual for Haydn. Of his roughly 50 plus piano sonatas, only 5 are in minor keys, notably in C, G, B, C sharp, and E minor, which is the piece we are analyzing here. There are some differences in tempo among different versions. Just Molto Vivace in 7 editions, 126 the crochet or quarter note beat in the motionless edition, and finally 120 BPM in 3 editions. The third movement of the minor sonata is cast as a rondo, alternating a recurring refrain theme, A, in the home key with contrasting couplets, also called episodes, or B, in major keys. Overall, the movement follows a 5-part rondo pattern, or A, B, A, B, A, where A represents the refrain in E minor and B are the interior episodes, often marked maggiore for their parallel major mode, in this case, E major. According to Kipling's form functional theory, each large section, the refrains and episodes, can be understood as a ternary form within the larger rondo form. In other words, the refrain and the couplets both have an ABA structure, sometimes called exposition, contrast in middle, and recapitulation in Kipling's terms. As the table shows, the refrains combined occupy roughly half the movement, which is typical for a rondo. The recurring theme dominates the form. The first refrain is relatively short, only 12% of the piece, while the later refrains are longer due to Haydn's expansions. The final refrains plus coda is the single largest section, about 27%. Each episode is slightly different in length, with the first episode, 18%, a bit longer than the second, 17% overall. The alternation of sections is fairly balanced. Haydn distributes the musical narrative evenly between the returning A sections and the contrasting episodes. This balance of proportions contributes to the movement's clarity. Listeners get just enough of the refrain to recognize it, then a contrasting episode for variety, then the refrain again, and so on, in a well proportioned cycle. The near equal percentages of the two episodes and the incrementally growing refrains from 12%, 26%, and then 27% reflect Haydn's practice of making each return of the rondo theme more substantial, leading to a final extended statement and coda. The refrain 1, bars 1 to 19, in E minor. The main theme is stated as a small ternary. A, bars 1 to 8, B, 9 to 13, and A prime 14 to 19, as a compressed recapitulation, which is the case from bar 14, marked A prime on the score. The A section presents an 8-bar theme that is folk like and clearly phrased. This theme could be analyzed as a period, with an inner structure of 4 plus 4 bars, but it has a rounded design. It begins in E minor and surprisingly modulates to the relative major, G major, for a cadence. In fact, the fast phrase ends with a perfect authentic cadence, also called PAC, in G major, illustrating Haydn's playful tonal shift even within the refrain. The brief B section or contrasting middle, bars 9 to 13, introduces a development of the motif, and crucially, it leads the harmony back toward E minor through a sequence of descending fifths, which are G, C, F sharp, and B. You can see the chords written above the stuff on the score. By bar 12, the music transitions from G major through a progression of 2, 5, 1 and 6, and 5 and 6, preparing the return to E minor. The A section or A prime section, bars 14 to 19, brings back the contrasting idea, now firmly in E minor, and concludes the refrain with a decisive PAC in the home key. In Kaplan's terms, this refrain functions as an expository theme that establishes the motif and then has a digression, B, leading to a reprise of the opening, fulfilling the ABA small ternary. The cadence in E minor at bar 19 clinches the tonic and makes the refrain a self contained unit. Thematically, Haydn's refrain is straightforward and memorable. Its 2-bar basic idea, a folk like tune, is stated and then immediately varied by the tonal detour to G major, showcasing Haydn's ingenuity in phrase extension and harmonic surprise. We have now the couplet 1, or also called episode, from bars 19 to 40 in A major, Maggiore. The first episode shifts to the parallel major, providing a sunny contrast to the minor mode refrain. It is marked Maggiore in some editions, indicating the change of mode. This section is also structured as a ternary form. The A section, from bar 19 to 26, introduces a new theme in E major, marked derivative 1PA, which means that the motivic materials derives from the basic idea 1PA. This motive is lighter in character and texture, with an intermittent accompaniment. The subsection 27 to 32 bars, or contrasting middle section, offers a variant of the main motif of the couplet 1, but ornamented from bars 27 to 28, and then repeated in bars 29 to and 30. By mid episode, Haydn modulates towards the dominant of the home key. In fact, the episode eventually gravitates to B major, the dominant of E minor, a pivotal move that sets up the refrain's return. The A section, from bars 33 to 40, reprises the episode's theme, or a variant of it, now in the parallel major, E major. Haydn ensures the episode ends with a perfect cadence in E major, or PAC. To better visualize the form, it is important to take the ornamentation and non structural notes to observe and listen the harmony and melodic overall structure. Let's listen. The refrain 2, from bars 40 to 75 in E minor. The main theme returns in the tonic, but Haydn varies and extends it, preventing a mere literal repeat. Refrain 2 still carries the outline of the small ternary ABA prime, but with extensions and ornamentations. A is from 42 to 47, B 48 to 57, B buried, 58 to 67, and A prime 68 to 75. The section from bars 41 to 47 restates the refrain theme in E minor. Listeners' familiarity with the tune allows Haydn to play with it, adding trills and slight rhythmic alterations. The B section, from bars 48 to 57, again serves as the contrasting middle, but this time Haydn embellishes and expands it. Instead of only a few bars of digression, he repeats the B section material in an ornamented sequence. Bars 58 to 67 are essentially B prime, an extended variant of B. This means refrain 2's middle section is longer and more developmental, touching additional harmonies, bar 61 and 62, on the second degree and 6 degrees, and sequencing the motif. By bar 67, A prime 68 to 75, he brings back the refrain melody in E minor to close the section. This reprise is slightly decorated by the syncopated rhythms in bar 70 to differentiate it from the initial statement. The cadence at bar 75 confirms E minor, a PAC, formally closing refrain 2. According to Kaplan's framework, such alterations still fulfill the formal functions of the refrain. The A sections state and reconfirm the theme, presentation, and closure, while the expanded B functions like a miniature development or continuation, intensifying harmonic tension before resolution. Couplet 2, bar 76 to 97. In E major, which is called also Maggiore, varied. The second episode provides another major mode contrast, and it is often a revisiting of the first episode's material in a varied manner, especially in the narrow range created by the accompaniment, now in a higher register. Like couplet 1, it is in E major, the parallel major, but Haydn now enriches the texture or figurations, hence it is sometimes described as ornamented. This section again follows a ternary form, ABA prime, which means that A occupies 76 to 82, B 83 to 90, and A prime 91 to 97. The part recalls the theme from the first episode, now embellished, for example, with other trills and turns in bar 78 to 80. Harmonically, it stays in major, initially, but leads towards B major at bar 82. The B part, bars 83 to 90, departs to new keys, much as before. Notably, Haydn engages in deeper thematic development here. He takes material from the main refrain and works it into this episode. This clever integration creates a link between the refrain and the episode, increasing the rondo's unity. The middle of couplet 2 drives towards B major again. By bars 87 to 90, the music reaches a PAC in B major, the dominant of E, echoing the strategy of couplet 1. The A prime section, bars 91 to 98, returns to the episode's opening theme in E major, now shortened to wrap up the episode. It cadences convincingly in E major in bar 97. By the end of this section, the parallel major is simply dropped to a minor mode, allowing the final return of A. Overall, couplet 2 intensifies the rondo's major minor dialogue. It starts and ends in the bright E major, showcasing the episode theme in a more virtuosic light, while subtly recalling the refrain's motifs. The use of inversion and ornamentation demonstrates Haydn's sophisticated thematic transformation within a formally tight knit episode. The refrain 3 and closing section, from bars 98 to 133 in E minor. The final refrain arrives, bringing back the A theme for the last time and driving the movement to its conclusion. Haydn treats this refrain 3 as a culmination. It is the most elaborated statement of the rondo theme, incorporating variations and a closing extension, or coda. Next, the B section returns in bars 114 to bar 123. But unlike earlier iterations, it is heavily ornamented and expanded. Haydn may sequence the B section idea to new harmonic heights or include dramatic pauses or rapid passage work here. The harmony in this final B section likely ventures through the relative major G and back to the dominant, as earlier refrains did. Indeed, the music moves to G major around bar 115 and again around 124. By bar 124, a modified version of B's cadence occurs, and in bar 130, a deceptive cadence occurs, launching directly into the closing section, bar 130 to bar 133. By bar 124, a modified version of B's cadence occurs, and in bar 130, a deceptive cadence occurs, launching directly into the closing section in bars 130 to 33. In bars 124 to 133, Haydn drives to the final cadences. This B prime plus closing section might incorporate fragments of the refrain's motive, adding rapid repeated notes characteristic of a closing flourish. The tonal focus here is E minor. Any remaining major mode coloration is dispelled as the piece heads to closure. We can regard the final bars as a coda merged with the end of the refrain. It serves to reinforce the tonic and provide a satisfying conclusion beyond the strict ABA form. Kaplan notes that codas and expanded cadential sections are common in closing off a rondo, adding emphasis to the final return. The movement accordingly ends with a robust, perfect, authentic cadence in E minor, firmly closing the rondo and the sonata. The thematic material in this final refrain is heightened through variation. By repeating A and extending B, Haydn ensures the listener's expectation of closure is both delayed and delightfully fulfilled. The refrain's joyous character, even in minor, shines through these embellishments, aligning with Kaplan's observation that even minor key rondos often project a lighter effect until the very end. In summary, Haydn's finale to the E minor sonata is an exemplary classical rondo in a minor key. It combines a clear formal design as illuminated by Kaplan's form functional analysis with inventive twists in phrase structure and key color. Historically, it stands out for its minor mode drama amid Haydn's work, yet it remains stylistically classical, balanced, witty, and ultimately optimistic in spirit. The movements, form, content, and context thus all interconnect. The Sturm und Drang expressivity of the 1770s finds its outlet in a minor key rondo that still adheres to the elegant proportions and thematic coherence championed by theorists like Kaplan. As the final part of this video, I will leave you with the whole piece analyzed, in which you can listen and see the sections as it plays along. Let me know if you are studying this piece and tell me what are the challenges you are facing with it. Also, if there is a sonata you would like to see analyzed, also let me know. I will try to upload it as fast as I can. Enjoy and see you in the next video.